Yeah. Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry. You had to nudge me awake. I was doing some other work. Sorry. Yeah.
I am, yeah, yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
I have no words
Okay.
for
So
this.
let's back
So,
up. Let's
okay,
back up here. First of all,
you
let's
back up because I was talking a lot. Okay,
first
while
of
you
all
were gone.
let's reiterate the importance that we expect to be coming up in the defense closing, and that is that we will learn that not
Opening, a
once
defense
but
opening,
twice
defense opening.
a defense opening that not once but twice the alleged victim reached out to the defendant and said, "Hey, you know what? Give me $30 million, and this thing
Yeah, the
goes away."
victim or his representative, right?
Or his representative, yeah. And so that may explain why Mr. Mayers wasn't so excited about taking any plea deal because he knew it was a shakedown, that he had done nothing wrong. Now that'll all play out in the course of this trial. We don't know for sure, but that is a big matzo ball in this whole process, right? And it could totally sink the prosecution's case. The jury hears that and believes it. They got to believe it, and we
Right,
have to assume there will be witnesses to testify about it. Correct?
right.
Unless the defendant's going to take the stand, which is another wild card. We aren't sure right now what's going to happen there, but maybe he has corroborative evidence that supports these alleged requests for money.
What's interesting is that supposedly filed a civil suit, and then right there, the text are right there. He says, "You're just trying to." ASAP Rocky says, "You're just trying to take money from. You're trying to get money from me," yeah, and yet he says he wants money. All right,
Yeah.
we don't. We don't even see this. We don't even see a shooting. We don't even see alleged shooting. Okay, we don't know what the
Oh
alleged
yeah, yeah,
defendant did.
yeah.
What
Don't
did
get me
he
started
do?
on that.
You mean like the
Whatever
evidence?
that was. I mean,
What was that?
was that a Fellini film? What was that? I mean, ooh, images. Here's somebody's legs. Oh, well,
Look,
you're guilty then,
here's a little
clearly.
red box, and it's got nothing in it, but you'll be able to tell who everybody is by looking at the because I tell you that they're in the little red box. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm come on, everybody in our chat room. You got to be chatting up here. You got to have questions for Michael and I because this was painful. If I took drugs, I'd like be calling my doctor right now and say, "Could you prescribe me something like a Valium or something like that?" Because I'm in pain. Is that do you get Valium for pain? I don't even know anymore. Or is it just Advil? I don't even know.
No,
I'm just
just like
kidding.
with your daily vitamins, you take Valium.
Okay, well,
So here's a prosecution. Hey, if you can't see it in the film, this is what it looks like right here. You can't miss this is him. You could tell. I mean, it's really bad.
it's the video is supposed to speak for itself, right? That's why you have a video. I mean, we've had videos in a number of cases. They speak for themselves, and the jury takes the video and they look and they say, "What do I see out of that video?" Is see for yourself. Seek the truth, as I always said. That was as we know that in the YSL case they copied. For the jury to seek the truth, they want to find the truth. They don't want to be told by some prosecutor, "Oh yes, law and order, you got to my F5." I had all this Catholic school training. Okay,
Yeah, well,
all
you're
right.
going
It's
into
it's as soon as I
Sunday
became
school.
an attorney, I mean, I'd have to go. I'd be in the confessional right now because I was like I was like, what the hell is this? What this is an opening statement. Now we know why John Lewin came in. Is he supposed to save the day?
Yeah, let's talk about John Lewin, since that's how the day began with the motion, which delayed the start of the openings.
Oh, by the way, he'll call and
Surprise!
complain. He'll call and complain if we said something that he doesn't like that we said.
I could care less. So, surprise! Here's this 28-page report. We just found it, Judge. And we gave it to the defense as soon as we found it. So, no harm, no foul. It's fine. And it's not totally inculpatory. But I always like prosecutors that make the decision whether something is inculpatory or exculpatory. Just like in the Baldwin case, all that may be more extreme, but we see it all the time. Well, Judge, it's not exculpatory. That's not your freaking job to decide for the defense whether it is or isn't. You just give it to them.
And you
I
know
don't
what? Los Angeles DA has a Brady unit. What is that?
know.
That's a unit that if you think anything, there's an issue with anything about whether or not it should be turned over inculpatory, exculpatory, you give it to them and they review it, when there's like a wall between them and the prosecutors to see whether it is that they say it has to be turned over. But how do you lose an expert report? Okay. How do you just
I don't
not
know. Did they say
find
they
an
lost it or they never got it?
I don't. I
I
was
think they said they
unclear to
never
me.
got it.
Maybe they never got it. All right. But you hire somebody. Wait a second. You're preparing the case. Hello. I sent this over and I asked the lab. I don't know whether it was the sheriff's lab they asked or what lab, because that wasn't clear from the discussion. Asked the lab to give us an opinion, okay, about whether or not the magazine, and that was the thing that they say a magazine, a Glock magazine, was found in ASAP Rocky's house, from what I understood, right? A magazine had the Glock and could therefore the bullets that supposedly grazed the hand of the victim come from a Glock. Okay, 9mm bullets. I wasn't even sure how this supposedly went down, by the way. All right. I don't know if
Well,
you know
I had
that.
a rough idea, that they had this altercation, which was really just a falling out between friends, and that night it evolved into shots being fired. That's the prosecution's theory. To me, the whole knuckle grazing, which we finally saw the picture of, it
Yeah,
looked like
right.
two of the knuckles grazed. I could do that, shaving. I make, those kinds of cuts and stuff. So
Or
I
falling, because you know what? When you fall,
when you
right?
fall,
If you
or if you
fall,
punch somebody,
or you punch somebody,
or
what
punch a
gets hurt?
wall.
Your nose, your knuckles, the protuberances from your body, and those it was just two knuckles, two knuckles.
Yeah, so I think they've got, in terms of the injury, first of all, you don't have to have an injury for an assault charge. Remember, assault is to create the apprehension of the
Oh,
injury.
okay.
So you
Okay,
don't
with
really
tool.
need to have an injury, but it helps. So it makes the story a little more saleable because in this case, they don't have the gun. So I think we got a causation
They
issue,
don't
though,
even
with,
have evidence that a gun caused it, except for apparently the victim, the alleged victim, going to say he was shot
well, yeah, I guess he never
in
went
the
to the hospital
knuckles.
because then they'd have to file reports about guns being fired. So
And
yeah,
then
I
you
think they
could
have a
take
causation
and then
issue.
you could take samples to see whether there's GSR
Yeah.
in the
I think they're
wound.
more concerned about just having to report that there was guns, involved in an incident, because then that's all part of the whole police investigation they'd like to avoid. Now, I think they've got a lot of problems with this case, let alone the motivation by the alleged victim to score some cash on this thing.
Yeah, and if you follow any civil suit and all, and what was this taking me away from my daughter? You wanted to take me away from my daughter? First of all, when you open, you have to tell a coherent, cohesive story. I don't know what the story was. I don't know what the story was, except he's going to say he shot me, and that's it. All right, and we don't really have very much behind the story. We have some texts that are exculpatory. They did hand that over, and that's it. I mean, that's what I got. That's the story. That's all I could tell. I couldn't see anything from those videos, and it's just remarkable to me, Michael, that supposedly what the prosecutor hinted at was that ASAP Rocky must have seen the camera push the guy behind where the camera was. Not that he know there weren't 47 other cameras around, right? And that's when the shooting happened. But you don't see any gun come out of the shooting happen. What you see is what looks to be a gun or a weapon later on put back into a pocket or a waistband. But that's the starter pistol that apparently everyone's going to say he always carried. That ASAP Rocky always
Yeah,
carried.
to use as a threat. Brooklyn has an interesting
Or,
question.
or not only as a threat, as a defense, because you don't know whether or not this victim pulled out a gun, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, literally, a starter gun is not a weapon that you can
It's not
hurt
a
anybody
weapon,
with.
right?
It's just a prop. Okay,
Right.
and I know my props. So Brooklyn
Mhm.
says when they offered the plea deal yesterday, they could have gone with an Alford type plea. Did a little different in California, but regardless, Tacopino, couldn't he say that it's really just a civil case, not a criminal case? Well, it's still a criminal case. I mean, you can't point a gun and fire a gun in somebody's direction unless maybe you're defending yourself, and that doesn't seem to be an issue in this case. So I think the bigger issue is if the plea deal had involved no admission of guilt, I think they might have gotten something. They might have been able to work something out. But I have a feeling that Paulie P. and Lewin, to whatever degree he's involved now that he's in the case, wanted that guilty plea. They wouldn't allow anything less. That's my guess.
That's my guess too. Now let's talk about John Lewin, because we saw him in the Durst case, and he got away with a lot. Now today, when we had that issue of the Brady material, he tried to get in a whole bunch of stuff, and this Judge Walsh, he kind of threw shade on him, right? And that's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. I'm not here, and I don't want to hear anything more about that. We're here. I told you an opening statement, and when Lewin tried to get in and say, well, the defense is just saying they're unhappy with the jury because they didn't have any blacks on the jury, which, by the way, is a problem for an appellate court,
It's
right?
interesting, yeah, but
It's an
why would he throw that
interesting.
in? I mean, it had nothing to
Well, then
do.
Lewin threw it in, and that's when the judge said, "No, no, 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 time out. No, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that." So he kind of got shaded by Judge Walsh. I thought.
Well, I did like, other than his ultimate decision, Arnold's decision really is, we're going to go with this case full steam ahead. I don't know what actually happened, inappropriate, just a mistake. I don't know, but we're going full steam ahead. And he knows he has a couple of, cowboys in front of him there, between Joe Tacopina and John Lewin, so he had to really set that tone early. And I think he did. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, and well, the other thing that he did that I thought was interesting, but I called it. I said to her, and you guys on the chat, you can back me up. I said the judge is going to say, no matter what, even if he is going to let it in, he's going to say you can't mention it in opening statements, right? And that's exactly what he did. He said you can't mention it. We'll deal with it when it comes to whether or not it's evidence or not. And then he says to Joe Tacopino, which he says doesn't really hurt your client. It doesn't give him. I think I lost my. Look at this.
You've
My
blown
mic
your
came off.
microphone right off your clothes.
I'm so animated here because it's like I'm trying a case. He said it doesn't really hurt your client because it doesn't really say he's guilty of anything. It could have come from a Glock or a lot of other 9mm weapons. And when you were gone, we talked about there's millions upon millions 9mm weapons in the United States of America. The Glock,
yeah, and so who knows if they tear into that 28-page report and then they get their own expert, who knows that they can't spin it to their advantage. That's not the issue. The issue is they should have it.
Right.
And Kristen is saying they found it last night. Oh gosh, I'm up till 2 a.m. I mean, Lewin is just a wheelbarrow full of crap, that guy. Everything he does is just, and he's so indignant. He's caught with his hand in the cookie jar, whether he really found that report late and never provided it or had intended all along to do a little trial by ambush. He comes off arrogant, like, hey, let's do it this way, Judge. We won't mention it in openings. Well, he's Mr. Magnanimous. Dude, you're the one who screwed up. So don't make it sound like you're doing a favor to anybody. If this case goes forward and you don't get punished, somehow disciplined, or that case comes back to bite you in the butt, you're lucky.
Right, so you're lucky. The judge tried to cover him and then say, well, I find there's nothing nefarious about it. But, he didn't have a hearing. He didn't have a hearing about whether it was nefarious or not.
That's the judge covering his own ass because he has to make a record of that to go forward.
Because he wants to go forward. He's not doing it. But it does affect. Look, if it does come in, maybe they would have addressed it. Because remember, you do individual voir dire in California of the jurors. You get to basically put your case out in front of them. And I do have a backstory, all right? If we want to go back to how this was picked. You talked about it with Bob Bianchi. Oh my God, I wish we can call Bob and get him right on here so I can go through this right now.
Probably steamed.
Not only is he probably steamed, but he was really fun the other night when he subbed for me when I was on the panel with by the way, just a little aside, the chief judge of the state of New York, okay? Judge Wilson was there, and he said that they're going to move forward on legislation in New York to make courtrooms, the courts open to cameras, for all courts to be open and to be doing legislation.
So tell me, there's no rule against it at the moment. So how is that going to happen?
Well, they'll have a law that you have to.
Whether you have to do it?
Yeah, that you're basically going to have to do it.
Well, that'd be different.
There'll be certain circumstances, but they're going to try to move forward with legislation to make sure that, because you have so many prosecutors' offices, everybody's independent. There's no unified system. Well, there's a unified system, but there really isn't a unified system, right? That it's going to be one set of standards and all, so people can't go off the rails. But they're going to try to move that forward in New York. He is a wonderful head judge for our Court of Errors and Appeals. Just a wonderful head judge. Our Supreme Court in New York is the lowest court, by the way.
Yeah, so only New York is wacky backwards that way. And you come from any other state, like I practice in California. What do you mean you're going to the Supreme Court? Aren't you jumping over something? But yeah, it's backwards here. Why would you call the Superior Court the top court? Instead of the Supreme Court.
I don't know. I came from New Jersey when I first got here. I was like, what? huh? Huh? What is it called? Where is
Yeah,
it?
it's
And there's
it's just
practitioners, and
weird.
it's very, very, the procedure, and you have two sets of statutes that go together. It's a mess. California, you do too. You have you have those two sets of different, not so much the statutes, but the rules that apply in the courtroom, right? You have your
You mean trial court versus upper
yeah,
courts?
yeah.
What?
Well, yeah, no, you have in terms of evidence, and all that kind of stuff. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So let
But
me
there
just
is
say
difference.
that if that happens, just one more note on your aside and your name dropping of the chief judge of the New York courts, that's a game changer if they create some legislation that basically says, absent extraordinary circumstances, every trial shall be made public. And then that way they can, minors involved, other issues that they
Right,
can,
right. Domestic
make an
violence.
argument and exclude.
Right.
I'd love to see that. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
We'll see if
We'll
that
see.
goes.
We'll see if it goes at all. But the whole program was about people being more sure, more confident in the justice system, truth and justice. How do we
Of
get?
course.
And
Of
you get it
course.
by obviously by openness, by fairness. And one of the interesting things on that was that, and we can talk about the whole issue of the race here in terms of jury selection. California is like the third largest, or Los Angeles, third largest county where you have in the United States where of people who are of African American or Black descent, right? When I looked it up, when this came up, and to have no one, to have the defense question nobody who was Black or African American. I mean, that didn't happen, Inspector. We had all sorts of
Here's what I
people.
think happened, just practically. They brought in 105 or whatever it was, and there were only 5 or 6 African Americans in that whole group, right? I think the
Right,
total was 5%. They never got in the box. Because
right,
remember how this judge does it. I mentioned how I've done it in the past. They call it the six pack, where they have 12 in the box and 6 in the front, and you work on those 18. And if 12 of them survive, you got yourself a jury. This judge just starts with 12 and then replaces those that get bounced. Well, they
right.
probably just never got to an African American in the box. I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't see their peremptories issued, but I guarantee you, if there had been a peremptory of a Black person, we'd be hearing about it, right?
Right, exactly. That's true. We would be hearing about it, and it's very interesting that the jury, there are 12 in the box, right, because it's a criminal case, right, and then there's four. He picked four. My understanding is four alternates, right. That's
Yes.
what he picked, right? The
Yeah.
alternates, just so you know, there's four women in the alt. By the way, there's seven women in the jury who are
In
women.
the box, 5
In the
men.
box, five men. In the alternates, there are four women alternates, right? Three white and one Hispanic. All right.
It's a lot of alts for a 2-week trial.
That's you know, there was a question about whether it's two Asian or 2 to 3 Hispanic and the rest white. I'm not sure, but the whole point that Joe Tacopino was making, is that he thought that at least they should have somebody who's of African American descent or Black to be in the box to question in the county of Los Angeles.
Yep.
Now, very interesting, because you have both a Black victim and alleged victim, and a definite Black defendant, right?
Mhm.
An African American defendant. So it's not. I think it probably is a more racial issue if there's a Black defendant and a alleged white victim. That becomes more of a, the old, things we've learned
Definitely it
about for
becomes more
years.
controversial. But let me ask you this. If you're just talking raw odds, right, just good
Right.
old-fashioned odds, it's still very possible to get a jury of non-Blacks. Very possible. The odds are 10 to 1 that you
I'd
would
like to
get.
see but I'd like to see how many times that's actually happened in Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
I mean, I'm
In
just
the
saying that's just
panel.
raw numbers. And I also think, and I don't have the answer to this question, and I'm not sure I'll get it, when you send out these jury, appearance notices, you don't get 100% compliance. So I'd like to know, of those that were sent to white, brown, Asian, Black, who were the no-shows? What was the color ratio of the no-shows? That could affect
Yeah,
the overall ability to get somebody in the box. So
I know, but I just think it just doesn't look good. But whatever it is. But you know what, like, we gotta assume the jury's fair. The judge said that he believed that Mr. Tacopino was happy with the jury. He accepted him. He was happy
well,
with him.
yeah,
And apparently they didn't use
again,
all the challenges. So,
that's
you
just
know,
that's classic Judge CYA, because he's just reinforcing. Well, you would have continued to use your peremptories and et cetera if you weren't happy with this jury. So
speaking about Luigi, the name Luigi came up in our case because apparently one of the names that A$AP Rocky goes by is Luigi, and I was like, "Whoa, wrong case for that."
yeah.
But Brooklyn, I doubt that.
And he might be all federal. We don't know if that's going to be kind of,
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna be coming.
consolidated or, who knows. But if it's
It's
all federal, ain't changing. That ain't
yeah,
changing. I
but
wish it would, but it's not.
you guys can look up first. Luigi was supposed to have an appearance in Pennsylvania. We thought that was going to go off. Did it go
Yeah, I
off?
think no, I think it was still on calendar. I can't believe anything was done. I would imagine they pushed it or got rid of the case because those are really nothing issues
Talking
comparatively.
about the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah, obviously we're
Yeah,
talking about
tell me
Luigi
that.
Mangione and
Right.
the United Healthcare CEO that was killed, and the charges in Philly were the fake ID, having a gun. Obviously by comparison, nothing, and they were great because that's how they held him, got him back to New York on the big things. But they could easily just get rid of that.
Sheila, very, very good question. Just like when now President Trump was in
Mm-hmm.
New York, and the judge on the arraignment,
Egaron.
you can come in and you can take a picture, one still picture and all. Each judge can allow cameras in the courtroom. They can allow it, but they generally don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the history of it goes. That was surprising that that it was broadcast. They could allow it, and then that's the whole idea that if you have a high profile person, to allow the broadcast of that. And of course,
that was just to me a perfect example of the New York court hypocrisy. The Judge Egaron, and they showed just that early video of him on the bench, and he looked like a freaking clown. He was laughing and mugging, and then they
don't call my New York judges.
Sorry, it is what it is. And then he turns the camera onto the defendant, their table, some of the gallery, because we got to see what's her name, Letitia James, in one of the front rows, right? And then that's it. And then we're done. Well, that's bullshit. Why don't you, if you're going to allow cameras, allow cameras.
Look at this. We're just cursing today on
If you're just
TV.
going to use it for your own political purposes, that's just wrong. So don't be a hypocrite about it.